Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
We welcome you to this Thursday edition of the show. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. Glad you're joining us on over 270 affiliates across the United States and Canada. And wherever you may be watching, courtesy of the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, go there now. We update everything throughout the day. Yes, you get this show, but then on the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, when news breaks, we break in with SportsWrap Shorts. Always keeping you up to date on what's going on. Good to have you all with us. As I said, a busy show. We'll be joined by Dennis Bernstein. The NHL trade deadline is Friday. Dennis Bernstein of thefourthperiod.com and SiriusXM NHL Radio. We'll chat with him, get his thoughts on some of the big moves to come. Sam Yarnell was ready to go. He was like, I want to do the whole show with Dennis today. I'm like, we can't do the whole show with Dennis. If people don't like hockey, they're not going to want to tune in. But for our friends north of the border who love hockey, you'll love hearing from Dennis Bernstein a little later on in the show. We'll also get into the latest NFL scuttlebutt. Lots of moves taking place. We'll obviously get into those coming up a little later on in the show. There's some Aaron Rodgers stuff to get to, which I'll get into in the big story. There was a big NBA game last night, potential NBA Finals preview, Knicks and Thunder. We'll talk about that later on as well. But we start things out as we always do on this Thursday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story for me today is a two-parter starting with Aaron Rodgers, who was on the Pat McAfee Show yesterday. How do you know the NFL offseason has officially begun? Because Aaron Rodgers comes out of hiding, sticks his head out of the hole and says, huh? Anybody want me? Can I get you interested? Anybody want to come and sign me? Because I'm a free agent in this offseason. Aaron Rodgers' most recent visit with Pat McAfee was kind of interesting in this regard. It's not interesting from a breaking news standpoint because it's an hour and 13 minutes of, Pat McAfee blowing sunshine up Aaron Rodgers' ass. And then it's the other side of it being, giving Aaron Rodgers a platform to talk about whatever he wants for an hour and 13 minutes. Again, for a guy that doesn't want to be in the spotlight, for a guy who says, I don't want anybody to take pictures of my wife or fly drones over our house or I have stalkers or all this stuff. For a guy that doesn't want any of that, Aaron Rodgers sure has a terrible way of showing it. Remember, this is a guy who made a documentary about himself. I mean, how much more self-centered do you have to be to make a documentary about yourself and put it out to Netflix? So don't tell me it's not about you, Aaron Rodgers. It's always about you. But he'll tell you it's not, and Pat McAfee will be there to tell him, it's okay, Aaron. We love you. You're on the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks, which he probably isn't. But it is a fascinating view into where media is today. It really is. It's a fascinating look into where we're going, where we've been. It was kind of funny. I was talking about this the other day. We were watching Bob Costas and the old throwback NBA on NBC broadcast, and where broadcasting was, kind of melding it with where it is today, and then talking about Aaron Rodgers visiting with Pat McAfee and where it is today, and this verbal sort of patting on the back is the nicest way I could say it, for an hour and 13 minutes. What did you really get out of that? If you watched it yesterday, tell me what you really got out of watching Pat McAfee for an hour and 13 minutes on Wednesday with Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers. Tell me what you got out of it. You can see my name there on X. You're more than welcome to hit me up. My DMs are open. I want to know what you honestly got out of watching that for an hour and 13 minutes yesterday. Other than a bunch of self-serving sort of anecdotes from Aaron Rodgers. Because other than just a few minutes of him talking about the fact that he's not ready to make a decision yet, he's a free agent. He certainly has options. And I will say this, and I'll say the same thing I said a year ago. He should wait as long as possible. and see what avails itself. Who gets hurt in training camp? You know, what off-season injury pops up? What team decides to make a change at quarterback knowing he's available? Give himself the best opportunity. Don't sign now. And it's not like there isn't going to be some starting quarterback, I don't know, Joe Burrow, that isn't going to go down with an injury at some point during the season where Aaron Rodgers isn't going to have an opportunity to go be a starter somewhere. He doesn't want to do training camp and OTAs. He's made that clear the last 2 years or 3 years, however long. You know, his 1 year with the Jets, the first year, and then the second year, obviously, where he wasn't hurt. But the first year with the Jets, he didn't even want to bother with OTAs. He was too busy traveling. Aaron Rodgers doesn't care about OTAs. And frankly, he probably doesn't even need it. It'll be interesting to watch where he lands in this offseason. I'm not sold he wants to be in Pittsburgh, even though Mike McCarthy's there. Because I think for him, it's got to be about winning a Super Bowl, getting that second one, which separates you from so many guys. Instead of being, you know, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson, now Sam Darnold, you put yourself into a different echelon of quarterback when you win a second Super Bowl. Part two of the big story. Knicks and Thunder last night, Madison Square Garden in New York. It was a hell of a game. Thunder get the win. Officiating gets the loss. Because I just continue to watch game after game in prime time with the Thunder. They're the it team now, so as many calls as they got last year, it feels like they got even more of them last night watching this game. Knicks were playing 5-on-8. And still the Knicks at the end of this game had an opportunity with less than a minute to go, heck, less than 10 seconds to go. They got 2 looks to tie the game late. And unfortunately, both shots go begging, if you're a Knicks fan anyway. Jalen Brunson got a good look. Then OG Anunoby, and you'll see it here in a moment, got a good look. And the Thunder get the win. Here's the one thing I know. If the Knicks get to the NBA Finals, you're going to have an entertaining Finals. I don't know if the Knicks will win, but just New York being in the NBA Finals will make for an electric atmosphere. Whether it's against Denver, great atmosphere in Denver. Whether it's against Oklahoma City, like a college atmosphere. Or whether it's San Antonio with Wemby. You're going to get a great NBA Final if the Knicks are in there against any of those 3 teams. And if the Knicks play the kind of defense that we have seen them play over the last couple of games against the Thunder and the Spurs, the Knicks might just be in the NBA Finals. We're talking NBA. Check that. We continue to see news all across the NFL. Players getting cut, players getting franchise tagged, and players being traded. Surprising deal. Right after we put the show to bed yesterday, Sam Yarnell, who we say hello to for the first time today. Well, who saw that one coming? Maybe if you followed the history of the Chiefs, maybe you should have seen it coming. The Chiefs trading corner Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams, and in return getting a haul in terms of draft capital, and look, saving themselves maybe some money in the process too. So I am curious to get your take on it because I love the deal from both sides. This is one where I don't think anybody loses. I think this is a great move for the Chiefs to get as much as they can. I think they got the max for McDuffie for where he is this stage of his career. They get another first round pick this year, and McDuffie lands in a spot where I think he's got the potential to help the Rams get over the hump and be a Super Bowl team next year. I don't think there's any losers in this.
Yeah, Jason, I texted you when this move broke yesterday. I think it was a record time for after you and I had finished making the show to when this news broke. Yeah. It was 4 minutes and 50 seconds from when we finished the last words of this show to when Trent McDuffie was traded to the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams doing what they've done now, it seems like every year for the past 10 years with their first round pick. Every one of their first round picks since 2017 has been traded to another team. From a Chiefs perspective, my main concern and my initial reaction to this was, I'm very worried the Chiefs are going to end up with Jeremiah Love. And if the Chiefs end up with Jeremiah Love, they may not have a single problem next year. This feels like getting this extra first round pick in the back end of the first round feels like the ammunition that's going to be needed for the Chiefs to trade up to draft Love where he's going to be commanded, right? We saw him shoot up all of these mock draft projections after his performance at the Combine. There are some mocks that have him going as early as the third pick. Do I believe that he will? No, but I think that there's a very realistic chance that he gets taken inside the top 5. So now if you're the Chiefs, you package your pick at 8 or 9, whatever they have, and that pick at the back of the first round, and some team will eat that right up. 2 first-round picks for 1, and the Chiefs are going to end up with the very most dangerous running back in this draft class, and one that people have argued is more dangerous than Ashton Genty was coming out of college. So that's my concern on the Chiefs side. On the Rams side, they just filled the biggest hole that they had to fill this offseason, and they did it with an all-pro. You couldn't ask for any more, especially in an era where the Rams need to be focusing on, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. What is the replacement for Matthew Stafford going to be down the line? I don't even necessarily mean this season, but down the line with how young that team is, they're going to need to have another quarterback lined up to take over when Matthew Stafford is done, which I think all of us can admit is not that far down the road from now. It really does feel like a genius move on the Rams' part. And the Chiefs they're taking a hope that they can move up and get that star stud running back at the front of the first round.
You know, I was thinking about this just now as you were saying, and I know this isn't supposed to be a conversation about the Rams' backup quarterback situation or, you know, who's next, but it does make you wonder a little bit if there's somebody out there that might take that. What do you think? Stafford's got 1 more year? Is it 2 more years? Like, you know, I think he's going 1 year at a time right now, and clearly he's coming back for 2026. But I wonder if you're somebody like Kyler Murray or if you're somebody like Tua, if you take that backup job for a year knowing or maybe hoping beyond hope that you could be the heir apparent, you know, walk into a Puka Nacua and walk into a stacked roster with a great head coach, a good offensive mind. Just something to kind of think about for a second. Then again, yeah, I mean, again, just throwing it out there, spitballing.
But if you're the Rams and you're doing it from a business standpoint, right? Sure, while Kyler has a little maybe more physical attributes, he's going to cost so much as opposed to let's take Drew Aller in the second round this year and let him learn behind Matthew Stafford for 1/10 of the price.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Stephon Diggs released by the New England Patriots yesterday. Yes, Sam, I could see you already have a reaction. Patriots letting him go. And look, I mean, given the off-the-field issues, not terribly surprised. They tried it out for a year, see what they could do with it. You know, and now they'll sort of cut ties with him, and we'll see what happens with him in this offseason.
Yeah, you feel for Stephon Diggs at this point. I mean, it's
though?
hard to do anything else. No, so much has gone wrong in that guy's life. It's not that I have empathy for him or sympathy even, but I just hope that he gets the help that he needs. Like something has very clearly gone wrong in Stephon Diggs' life. His fiance left him, right? He's lost his job. Like that happens to one of your friends. They lose their fiance and they lose their job.
You're calling them.
The span of a month and a half. Yeah, you're calling people, right? So I just hope that Stephon Diggs has the right people around him because that I really can't imagine what life is like going through that portion of your life, no matter how much money you've made in your career, no matter how great you are at whatever athletics you want to be. It definitely is a tough time, but obviously he made some mistakes and hopefully he's learning from them. Jason, I'll say this from a Patriots standpoint, they better be praying that they land AJ Brown, because if they don't, oh my goodness, that team's going to be horrible next year.
I don't know if they'll be horrible because the division they play in, the Jets and Dolphins are always going to be worse. So you've got a couple of layups on your schedule. But here is the one thing I will say. You know, when it comes to this AJ Brown thing, you're trading one problem for another. And I know AJ Brown's a different kind of problem. It's he's a head case in a different sort of way. And I don't want to get too, I don't want to be too condescending or mean because some of this is mental health stuff. But if you're the Patriots, do you really want to trade, you know, what you were just going through with Stephon Diggs for what you're going to go through potentially with A.J. Brown. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that if you're Mike Vrabel, is that the tone you want to set to start your off season when free agency hits, 6 days from now? Is that the tone you want to set for your organization?
It is 100% a valid question, and one that I think that Patriots fans should be asking themselves potentially more than they currently are, having seemed to have been sold down this A.J. Brown river. I'll say this, though, to the other side. Mike Vrabel has experience with A.J. Brown, right?
Yep.
Mike Vrabel was A.J. Brown's original coach. If anyone can reel it in, it's probably Mike Vrabel.
Yep, no, I don't disagree with that. There will be more NFL to get to later on in the show. Aaron Rodgers speaks. And for a guy who doesn't want to be in the spotlight, he spent an awful long time on Pat McAfee Show yesterday talking about absolutely nothing except himself. We're coming back with Dennis Bernstein next. Great to have you all with us on this Thursday. NHL trade deadline is upon us, and we are graced with the presence of one Dennis Bernstein of thefourthperiod.com, SiriusXM NHL Radio, who hangs out with us every week on the show, especially once we get past, the NFL season. We got to get as much Dennis as we can. I will say, Sam lobbied for an entire show of NHL today. Sam was like, I want 3 segments. I'm like, we're doing 2 segments. We can't do 3 segments with Dennis.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody isn't an NHL fan and I do 3 segments of Dennis, I lose them. I can't do that.
If somebody's not an NHL fan, they shouldn't be watching the show.
That's true. It's fair. Dennis, I got to get your thoughts, here as we approach the trade deadline. The first one for me is on Sidney Crosby. And look, this is what NHL teams fear when they send these guys to the Olympics, is this sort of situation with a Penguins team that's in contention and now without Sidney Crosby. What is the sense for when he's going to come back from this injury?
Probably a couple more weeks. It's not a season-ending injury. I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks, so maybe a PCL strain or so, probably a strained knee. So I don't think they're going to make any big moves at the deadline, right? Because they know he's coming back. So, but that's the risk. Look at here in Los Angeles, Kevin Fiala. Really, that was a gut punch for the Kings. You go trade for Panarin, and you think you're going to have 2 gifted offensive players on your top 6, and one is gone for the season. So, yeah, it won't stop these players from going to the Olympics, Jason. It just won't. They're playing the World Cup of Hockey in 2 years. They'll play in the Olympic in 4 years, and it's a consequence sometimes of a very physical game. So it's tough.
It really makes me laugh because we were talking about 2 days ago on the show, we had David Ardsma on to talk about the World Baseball Classic. And I'm just saying, the U.S. isn't in it to win it. They're there on the surface, and players are on the roster, and it's nice, but you got guys throwing 50 pitches, 60 pitches, saying, I'm only going to play 1 game here and there. The difference between this and hockey is mind-blowing.
Yes. The intensity and the pride, and you saw it in the celebrations. You saw it in the speeches from, Jack Hughes and Jack Eichel, and it is very, very different. The intensity is there, but that's what they wanted. They wanted that for 12 years. They put it as part of the CBA negotiations, and that's why they're in place. But there will be consequence for that. There will be other players injured, and if you're playing the Olympics, you're an elite player. So a lot more, more big-time players will get hurt. But that's the consequence of something that I think everybody wants with respect to growing the game.
Sam, go ahead.
Dennis, we'd be remiss if I didn't make a bunch of this segment about my beloved Buffalo Sabres. Obviously, I was giddy for about 12 consecutive hours when the rumors started to circulate about Robert Thomas. We'll get to him and the Blues as a whole in a second. But there is a much louder rumor that the Sabres are bringing in Colton Parayko. I'm curious your thoughts on the Sabres going out and getting a D-man for a unit that they already had plenty of talent on.
Yeah, talent, but not size, enough physicality. So that's what they're looking for. And when you play Tampa Bay in the second round, if you get there, you're going to have to grind out wins, right? And so that's what Colton Parayko brings. Is he fast? No. Is he a shifty player? No. But they have those players on the blue line. They have skilled players on the blue line. They want size, they want physicality. They're trying to get that done. And that's a great guy. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's played in the Olympics. He played in 4 Nations. So this is an experienced player who'll give you size and physicality on the blue line, something they want more of.
And from the Blues perspective, right? They deal Parayko, still ongoing talks with, I think there are a couple of teams in on the Robert Thomas sweepstakes.
Yeah.
What's going on in St. Louis? It's just a fire sale. They're just trying to recap whatever capital they can for these guys.
And throw Jordan Cairo into the mix. They're talking about him as well. Yeah, the team is, I think, 31st in the NHL. The goal difference was like -50. It's a bad team. And Doug Armstrong is an aggressive GM. He has players who have market value. And what he'll do is he'll set prices. And the great thing about it is he has these guys on term. So if he gets the price he wants here, that's fine. If not, he'll move on to the off season and do it probably over the summer. So yeah, the team needs to be broken down, and they're not going to trade everybody. But these are high value picks. You look at what Mackenzie Weegar got from the Calgary Flames. He got a defenseman, a center, and 3 second-round picks. And that's for a decent player, right? These are players more valuable. So you're talking about multiple first-round picks. So it's a retooling in St. Louis. They're not going to break down the entire team, but they are going to retool here. If you look at what the smoke signals are right now.
Dennis, I want to ask you about a team back in the East. Are the Bruins going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, they should make it as the second wild card. Right? I think there's a little bit more separation right now. So they might make a small move here at the trade deadline. Nothing really, really big. But, yeah, they should get there because you look at the teams under the line. Right now, Columbus is 3 points back. Now, they've been on an incredible run, Jason. I don't know how long they can sustain this with Rick Bowness behind the bench. And the Caps have lost 2 straight, so there's probably 9 teams for 8 spots. So I do anticipate the Bruins getting into the playoffs as the second wild card.
Caps have lost 2 straight, and they're starting to sell off too, Dennis. Another team that has had scouts in the building, it's been a little bit kind of confusing about what's going on. The Toronto Maple Leafs, a very small amount of noise that there was a potential Austin Matthews trade west. We talked about the Fiala injury, and despite the Panarin move to the Kings, and their positioning and the firing of their head coach, what do you think the potential is that the Leafs actually move off of their captain at this deadline?
I don't think they move off the captain now, but I think they'll trade players. They'll trade Scott Lawton. They'll trade Alvarez Camargo. They actually set 3 players out for roster-related reasons. So they're going to trade these guys. Austin Matthews, I don't see it this summer. I don't see it any summer. Then you're really waving the white flag, right? Because you're not going to get back a comparable player, right, Sam? So you're saying rebuild. I just don't see it. I think they'll keep that core together. I think you'll keep Austin Matthews together with William Nylander. So I don't see that. And there's been rumors about him coming here to Los Angeles. I'd certainly welcome him here. But you're really, you're waving the white flag on the season now. You're waving the white flag on the next 5 to 7 years if you trade Austin Matthews. I don't think that the Leafs are in a position to ever rebuild given the market that they're in.
But do you think, real quick in the last minute of this segment, we're going to hold you for one more. You don't think even in the offseason they would make that move, that they think there's still enough out there that they could surround him with to build a winner?
I think that would be the goal, right? Because unless you're getting back, 5 first-round picks, this is not the NBA. They don't make trades like that, Jason. They trade 3 second-round picks, but they make 5. So I don't see it because of that market. And plus, the players made multiple statements about committing to staying in Toronto. He didn't sign a 2-year contract like Connor McDavid did in Edmonton. He went for 4 years, so I think the commitment's still there. I think he likes playing there. I think maybe some of the brushback on him being an American in Toronto, winning a gold medal, might have added to the mix a little bit here. But if you're really moving on that player, they're just saying rebuild. I don't think Toronto can do it.
Dennis Bernstein's hanging out with us from the fourthperiod.com, Sirius XM NHL Radio. You can catch him there as well. Oh, we haven't talked about a certain coach that got fired in Los Angeles, but don't worry. We're talking about it next. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Continuing the conversation around pucks with our friend Dennis Bernstein of the fourthperiod.com and Sirius XM NHL Radio. Joins us on Thursdays. So, no secret, you had an interesting exchange with Jim Hiller earlier this year. And I know you're a classy guy, so you're not going to dance on anybody's grave. But what was your reaction? What was your reaction when you saw Hiller get fired? And this sort of late in the season with a team that kind of was in the mix and now isn't in the mix. Just give me sort of your take on the way this whole thing came down and your reaction to that.
Well, last week they lost at home 8-1 to the Edmonton Oilers. And I've said this before. when the building's half empty and they're chanting your name, you're probably in trouble. So, and they'd gone through a stretch, Jason, where they gave up, I think, 24 goals. It was 18 goals in 3 games consecutively. They hadn't done that since 1993. It was time. It's not the solution. It's the consequence of a team that underachieves. And all the details. This was a team that prided themselves on structure, Jason, and they were giving up more even odd man rushes, more shots from the slot. So at this point, it was the time. Kenny just ran out of patience. The general manager, Kenny Holland, ran out of patience, and he made the move to DJ Smith, who was the assistant coach. I don't think it changes anything. I think you mentioned it's too late in the season to change systems. There's not enough practice time. So they'll try to get to the postseason. They're not going to sell anybody off. Maybe they make an ad here by Friday at noon Pacific at the trade deadline. But it was a time that it was just trending in the wrong direction, and Jim Hiller was the victim of that.
Dennis, speaking of this is a weird question. So if you give me pushback, I'll understand it. But sure. In the Pacific Division, you look through the teams, right? And the point production this year has just been abysmal, quite frankly. No team in the Pacific Division would make the playoffs if they were in the Eastern Conference. Right. What do you attribute that to? Is it infighting between the teams? Is it the bottom getting better? What do you think it is? And is there any team from the Pacific that you could see making noise in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's just an anomaly, Sam. I think it really is. Like it varies from season to season, because you look in the Central Division, it's not just a Western Conference. It's just one particular division. I think there's a lot of bad goaltending in this division, right? I just think there's underachieving. And it happens sometimes where you have teams that are getting older, like, aren't doing as well. Like Vegas is an older team. Edmonton's an older team, and they're not getting goaltending. So I think it's an anomaly. We could be talking about this about the Metro next year, or maybe not the Atlantic, but I just think it was just a perfect storm this season. And you're right, Sam. It's a toss-up division. I don't think anybody's coming out of this division who's going to get to the conference final. I think it's obviously the Central Division that's going to have the team that's in the Stanley Cup final. So I just think it's a one-off situation. Plus, you have the teams like Anaheim and San Jose that are coming. So they could be at the top of the food chain next year.
Let me ask you something. What would it mean, for the league? You've talked a lot about Utah and the success story, that is the Mammoth. And they're not an expansion team per se, but they're a new team in terms of being in a new market. What it would mean for the NHL to be able to have that team front and center in the playoffs as a wild card team, Dennis?
I think they're one of the models franchise of this NHL right now, Jason. So I think it's very important, because it puts a spotlight on saying, okay, if you get good ownership, you have a good building, you can win in this league. And they have a very smart general manager. But you're right. It's not an expansion team. It's not the Vegas Golden Knights. This team had a lot of talent. They've put it together. They got a good coach in Tourney. They have a smart general manager, but they have ownership that's willing to pay. Right? There was a story going back to when they first moved up there, and the locker room wasn't ready, and it was September, and the season started in October. Ryan and Ashley Smith said, here's $200,000, get it ready. And they got it ready. They're going to blow out both sides of the Delta Center, make this the largest building in the league. It's what happens when you get great ownership. These are great young owners that want this franchise to be a success, and so far it's working.
Dennis, the hottest team going into the Olympic break was the Dallas Stars, and they've stayed, obviously, the hottest team coming out of the Olympic break. If I give you a 7-game series started tomorrow, Avs and Stars, who are you taking?
Ooh.
It's going 7. Whoever gets the best goaltending performance in that Game 7 wins, because I'm not sure about the goaltending either way. Jake Ottinger didn't play in the Olympics, rightfully so. And Blackwood and Wedgwood, I'm not sure. And I don't know what it is with Colorado. Maybe they've been bored because they were so great. I said on the show for 3 months, there was one team and 31 teams. It's not the case anymore. Dallas is coming. Now, I think they need to make an ad here. I'd like to see Blake Coleman, who's from Texas, maybe added to the mix. And Jim Nill will be aggressive for the right player. But it's a toss-up right now. Colorado, it's not a fait accompli that Colorado's going to be in the Stanley Cup final, fellas. Like either Minnesota, if they trade first center, and I think they still need to trade first center, or if Dallas makes another move in their middle six, they could beat either one of those teams. Could beat Colorado right now. It's that close.
We mentioned the mediocrity of the Pacific, and the Vegas Golden Knights lead that mediocrity in the Pacific. They've struggled. They're leaking oil, 4-5-1 in their last 10. Do you see them doing anything here at the deadline?
Well, they added Nick Dowd as a center from Washington, right? So what does that mean? It means that William Karlsson isn't coming back. It also means that Mitch Marner won't play center anymore because now you can move Thomas Hertl back up to the 2C position, which is what they needed to do. And that's big. William Karlsson, even with the big names, he's an important player on that team, and he's probably not coming back. That's what this trade signals. So, yeah, so look, they can win the division. I think Anaheim's going to win the division. They're playing the best right now. They've got great offense. They don't have much on defense. Right? Every games are exciting. The one thing about Vegas, I'll say this about them, Jason, they've scored I think they've scored 92 or 91 goals in the third period. Wow. They fall behind every game. They rally every game. Sometimes they get there, sometimes they don't. So it's been a really interesting team. But when I look at the goaltending, I look at Aiden Hill, they're not winning a championship with that guy in it. It's just not his season. He has not been sharp.
Dennis Bernstein, he's our winner. TheFourthPeriod.com, Sirius XM NHL Radio. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Enjoy the trade deadline. We'll talk to you next week.
This is the time for always appreciate it.
It's time to talk about Aaron Rodgers on the show. Welcome back. On this, can you believe, I just said this to my husband this morning, can you believe it's already Thursday, Sam? Where does, I don't understand where these weeks go.
This week has been going very quickly, I do agree.
I just don't get it. Everything goes by so quickly. Aaron Rodgers was a guest of the one and only Pat McAfee, who, by the way, I am going to give some love to right now on the show. Jason Page, loving on Pat McAfee.
Wow.
He was out at the U.S. Open bowling tournament yesterday in Indianapolis. And of all the things Pat McAfee could do, he was a busy guy. Granted, media whore extraordinaire, which has a lot to do with why he's so busy, because he's never said no.
Can you say that on these airwaves?
You absolutely can. Yes, you could absolutely. Whore is not a whore.
Okay, don't say it again. Jesus, just keep going.
I'm just saying. A media prostitute. How's that?
Oh my, not much better. Just get on with the point.
So media prostitute Pat McAfee went to the U.S. Open yesterday. The U.S. Open Bowling Championships being held in Indianapolis. And by the way, our buddy Kyle Troop, with 8 games left in qualifying, is within the cut line to make it to match play. So very cool. We're rooting for Kyle Troop, who says when he gets his next win on tour, he's coming right back on the show. And he won this event a couple of years ago. So we're rooting for our guy, Kyle Troop, out there at the U.S. Open. Good luck. So Pat McAfee has Aaron Rodgers on yesterday. And they speak for, an hour and 13 minutes? And I mean, almost none of it is anything I really care about. But I caught a little bit of it because I wanted to see what he said about potentially coming back and playing. I have to do my job, so I have to watch Pat McAfee even when I don't want to watch Pat McAfee. And, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers sounds to me like a guy that's coming back next year. Because I think by now, if you're retiring, you would have made that decision. Now, I think a lot of what plays into this, and we talked about this yesterday on the show, where do you potentially have your best chances to win a Super Bowl? That's the conversation. We've heard, Derek Carr talk about potentially coming out of retirement if he has a place to win a Super Bowl. If you're a free agent right now, if you're Kirk Cousins, where's your best chance to potentially win versus just getting a job starting somewhere and sucking things up? I wonder what Aaron Rodgers has his eye on. If Pittsburgh is sort of the fallback, if Pittsburgh's sort of if nothing else pans out, with a championship contender. And I will say the same thing, Sam Yarnell, that I said a year ago about this. And that is, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, and I know people are saying, well, it's not fair to the Steelers or other teams or anybody else. He's a free agent, by the way. He doesn't owe anything to anybody. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I hold out and wait until the last second. I look to see if somebody gets hurt in training camp. I do not need to be out on the field for OTAs and all this stuff. I wait it out if I'm Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers is not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Fairly
Probably
certain
not.
that none of the
That's a safe
quarterbacks
bet.
that you named are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think it is an asinine argument for a 40-whatever-year-old quarterback to make that he still wants to win a Super Bowl. Brother, I'm sorry, that's off the table. In the 17-game schedule era of the National Football League, how many times has a quarterback left a team after winning 10 or fewer games and gone on to a team that won the Super Bowl the next year or even the year after that? I'll answer it for you. It's zero. It's not going to happen. It simply will not, which is the same reason it won't happen with Kirk Cousins, which is the same reason it won't happen with Kyler Murray, which is the same reason it won't happen with Tua Tagovailoa. As much as these guys could go to different situations and make the most out of it over the next 3 years or whatever the case may be, try and, revitalize their career over an extended period of time, none of these guys are going to contend for Super Bowls next year, the least of which is Aaron Rodgers. And yes, we all saw all of the clips from yesterday on the Pat McAfee Show and all of the woe is me moments for Aaron Rodgers, who somehow lives this incredibly secluded life, yet can't get out of this incredible spotlight that he's been thrust into for being a mediocre level player in a national sport. Yeah, not buying it, Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. We all know his history with, psychoanalytic drugs, right? These ayahuascas of the world. I don't know what he may have taken to make him think that there were people stalking him outside of his house. But I promise you this. I promise you this. Nobody but nobody is interested to the degree of stalking in a quarterback who is leading a 10-7 football team that is barely going to make the playoffs. Oh. Nobody cares.
Well,
Nobody does.
Pat McAfee says he's on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, so you better.
That's
watch
not
yourself.
true either. That's not true either. He's not on the Mount Rushmore of active quarterbacks. Maybe he's on the Mount Rushmore of active quarterbacks. There are 4 faces? Maybe he's the 4th face of active quarterbacks in terms of he doesn't have a better career. No, I'm not going to say that. It's irresponsible. But would you say, Jason, that he hasn't even shot at having a better career than Patrick Mahomes?
No, of course
Jalen
not.
Hurts? Guys that have won Super Bowls and Super Bowl MVPs?
No. I don't even know that he's necessarily much better than Matthew Stafford at the end when their careers are done. I really don't. They got as many Super Bowls. Stafford's got an MVP.
It's a great one.
It's a great one. It'd be a fun one to debate with football people for sure. But I think he's playing football next year. I'd like to see him go to a team where he has receivers that could sort of enhance what he is at this stage of his career and see how it goes. I don't think he's winning a Super Bowl either. I don't think you're going out on a limb saying that, but I would be curious to see if you gave him a plethora of receivers and a good offensive gameplay, what he would be able to do. We'll find out. We got odds and ends. We'll wrap it up with that next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Don't forget, Friday is all about NASCAR with Tino Patino. He'll be here, talk about this week's race. We'll also chat with Robert Lital, the founder of Black Sports Online. Joins us every Friday on the show to talk about the top stories of the week. What is the matter with you?
No, come on. It's hilarious that you're talking about the NASCAR thing right before we talk about the Myles Garrett thing. You have to see the irony there.
You would see it. Okay, fair enough. A couple of reminders while Sam composes himself. A couple of reminders before we go. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. 45 minutes of crystal clear audio, us, Monday through Friday. You can listen to it while you're driving to work, on the treadmill, in the shower. It is a great listening companion with the top stories of the day. We have it available for you early each afternoon. Make sure and subscribe. You can listen to it on your way home from work. That is the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. Again, on all your favorite podcasting platforms. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place to find all things. Guess what? Sports Wrap. We have the entire Monday through Friday TV version of the show. The commercials taken out of it. There for you. 45 minutes. commercial-free. Go and get it. It is fantastic to watch. We've got extended conversations there. The SportsWrap Spotlight with whoever the guest of the day is. We take that, give it its own separate little moment. Sometimes extended content from that is available as well. SportsWrap Shorts. Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter what day it is. SportsWrap Shorts, always live on SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Go and subscribe today. Also, SportsWrap Shorts, covering the top stories of the day, available on our TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, the same name there, SportsWrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Thursday, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Myles Garrett, it should be the end of his driver's license. Can we just, no more driving for Myles Garrett. And I say this, I say it half jokingly, but okay, once or twice you get caught speeding, it's, an anomaly, whatever. Maybe you were in a rush to get somewhere. 9 speeding tickets, 9 times. I think of Ferris Bueller. 9 times. 9 times this guy's been busted for speeding. At some point, somebody's got to say, we're just taking the keys away. It's like my 83-year-old dad, where we finally had to go in and do an intervention and say, Dad, we're taking the keys. Okay, in his case, he's a little delulu, so we had to do it. But in the case of Myles Garrett, just take the keys away. And I say this, Sam. I say this. And I have to, this is full transparency. I am a speed demon. I drive fast. Okay? I've told Sam the stories off the air of some of the things I've done.
Watch out. If Jason's behind the wheel of that EV, folks. Oh, man.
Now, I am a safe fast driver, but I am a fast driver. I have no problem cracking triple digits, in the middle of the desert. But not, I don't know where he got busted in this instance. Dude, but 9 times, Sam.
EVs go 100 miles an hour?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
I'm just joking. Don't come for me. But I do drive a gas-powered, American-made SUV on these roads. Couple of different directions you can take this Myles Garrett thing. One, so it makes sense why he retracted his trade request away from the Browns. Clearly, this is the only place where he can do all of this driving. He knows that if he goes anywhere else, he'll actually get arrested. Two, you have to wonder if all of these, I would assume Cleveland area, but Ohio nevertheless, police officers are just pulling Myles Garrett over because he's the only good player on the Browns and they want to meet him, obviously. So there's that plays into this too. And yeah, you started to mention it, Jason. Like, Myles Garrett is being paid a ton of money. He got historic money a year ago. Brother, you can afford a driver.
Yeah.
They're not that expensive. I'm not acting like I have one myself, but man, if you're making $50 million a year, pay someone to drive you around. It's not that expensive, comparatively.
No.
Those were my main 3 things from this. A very avoidable thing, but hilarious that it happened again.
Unbelievable. 9 times. Thunder Knicks, thrilling finish last night at Madison Square Garden. Unless you had the Knicks on the live bet, plus 220 when they were down by 3 in the fourth quarter. The officiating I can't watch these SGA games. I can't watch these SGA games where the guy you breathe on him and it's a foul. It's so bad. And even with all that, going 5 against 8 last night, the Knicks had this shot to win the game. Oh, wait, they get another shot with OG wide open. Brunson and OG both miss wide open threes. The Knicks lose, but I'll tell you, the one thing I've come away with now is if the Knicks get to the NBA Finals, whether it's the Spurs or whether it's Denver or whether it's Oklahoma City, they're going to be there against any of those guys. It'll be a long series. I could rest comfortably with that.
So, admittedly, I didn't watch this game, just maybe my protest against New York sports, call it what you want to.
Yeah, you're
However,
so anti.
Based on what Jason was telling me, I would think that the win probability graph were up and down the whole game, up and down.
Yeah.
The Knicks never had a 46% or more chance to win any time with less than 9 minutes to go in the game.
Hey, bottom line is it was a close game. I mean, the Knicks were up going to the fourth quarter. First time this year, by the way, they've lost a game at home where they led in the fourth quarter. Thanks to Dennis Bernstein. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. A Friday edition of Sports Wrap tomorrow. It'll be a fun one. We hope to see you then. Bye-bye.